YouTube, what's going on? Again, if you've been watching my videos, then you know I always start the same way. I just want to thank you guys for taking the time to watch my video, but most importantly, listening to the information, right? Just hoping in the process of trying to educate as much as possible. Just sort of bring awareness to credit, how important it is and really how vital it is to have decent credit, right? Whether you're seeking for a good job or getting a decent apartment or forget about getting a mortgage, your credit score has to be at a certain level, and your credit history has to be where it needs to be as well. But most importantly, this is part 2 of a part 3 series of a series of 3 videos that I've done. And if you haven't seen part 1, which is it's actually labeled part 1, the start, the process of repairing your credit history and also increasing your credit score. This request came in from someone who watched one of my videos, which was the title of understanding the difference between removing something from your credit report versus deleting something from your credit report. If you look in that comment of that video, you'll see the person sent me a phenomenal suggestion to do a series of video explaining the start, the determining factor of which planner was killing your credit score, and also the solution to those determined factors. So I decided to do a 3-part video, and this is part 2 of part 3. Again, if you haven't seen part 1, please go back and watch part 1, because this is not going to make any sense to you, because it's the most important part, which is the start of the process, everything you're going to need. So why don't we talk about part 2? So in part 1, I briefly discussed, I went into detail exactly what you need. You need an extremely detailed credit report, because if you don't know what's in your credit report, then you just don't know what's causing the problem. So we need a detailed credit report, and if you don't have one, we'll put a link under this video, but there's a link also in part 1 video. Just go there or go into this link and grab your detailed credit report. But you need to watch part 1 so you know the things that I went over, how to fix those things, and then which will lead you to part 2, which is this one. Okay, again, if you haven't subscribed, please consider subscribe so you can get turn on the bell notification so you can get alerts whenever the part 3 comes out, which is after this one. So you have the whole package, okay? So not only that, it helps the channel to grow. Also like and share the video to help other people find the content that you are currently watching. So with that being said, let's get to part 2. Okay, so as we talked about in part 1, you need to definitely commit. You are going to have to commit. It's going to take effort. Credit repair take times due to the laws the credit bureaus has. And also the SIM law protects you as well, but it takes time in general. It takes time and effort. Please take the time and commit yourself to actually doing the work, because it's going to take work. Okay, so in part 1 we talked about what you need, and in part 2 we are going to talk about the determining factors that's playing a major role in your credit score tanking, right? So some of the major factor, and I actually have a credit report right there in front of me of someone that needed a lot of help. Right, I can't discuss that information due to confidentiality, but I do have a lot of determining factors. So I'm almost positive everyone fall on those categories. There are 5 categories that make up your credit score again, and I'm gonna give you a broad examples of things that could be wrong based on this credit report I'm looking at. And I'm sure you will fall under one of those categories. If you do, then on the 3rd video, I will go into great detail of a solution, how to fix each one of those categories. So make sure you turn on your bell notification so you can get that alert when I do drop the 3rd part. All right, so some of the determining factor, again, keep in mind, everyone is a case by case. That means that whatever may be wrong with your credit report, it may not be the same issue that I have, and vice versa. So just keep that in mind. Those are just different suggestions. And most people, 99% I would say, fall under those particular categories. So number one is late payment. Okay, late payment is based on my experiences, one of the worst things that could happen to your credit score, because it impacts two categories, right? And then most importantly, it impacts the most important categories. Well, all the categories are important, but the reason I say most important, because those two categories, which is the payment history, which account for 35% of your credit score, and you could gain 192 points on that payment history category. And then the utilization category, which is the second highest category, account for 30% of your credit score, and you could gain 165 points. And if you have a late payment, it impacts both of those categories. So as you can see, that's 65% of your credit score. So it is huge. All right. So again, on part 3, I will tell you how to deal with late payment. Go into detail and give you a solution how to deal with it. This is just to determine factors of what is wrong with your credit score, why it's tanking. All right. So that's one. 2 is collections, right? Collection is pretty much when you went into business with a particular lender, whether you got a loan or you got a credit card or whatever the case may be, and you failed to make payment within 90 days. And there's a video that I've done in regards to the 90-day lenders, 90-day rule. After 90 days, they can't keep that debt in-house. They have to write it off. So that's actually what's actually happening here with the collections. You owe an obligation, you sign a contract, and you fail to pay within 90 days. So therefore, they set it off to a third-party collection agency, which reports you to the credit bureau. All right. So the next is overusage of your utilization, your limit, your credit limit. So that's fall under the revolving side of the spectrum, right? Let's just say you have a credit card and you have a limit of $5,000 and you use more than 30%. I also did a video on that as well, a revolving credit or revolving debt versus installment debt. So if you haven't seen that video, please go and watch that. Okay, so if you overuse your credit limit, then your credit score would definitely tank. All right, so and medical bills. Medical bills is another determining factor that plays a major role in your credit score. So in the medical bill, again, we all have co-pays. Some of us, like myself, if you see this mark under my neck, I had spinal surgery 3 years ago. So I have a huge medical bills that I had to pay, right? So if you fail to pay this bill after a certain period of time, then they will report you to a collection agency. Now, there's a myth out there that, on the video that I've done, there's someone that commented and stated that in Credit Karma, they saying that medical bill doesn't affect your credit score. Of course it does. When they report you to the credit bureaus, it becomes a collection. All collection is a collection. There's no different. That's how the algorithm view it, and it will tank your credit score. And on part 3, I will definitely tell you the ways you can actually deal with medical bills. Okay, so bankruptcy. Well, bankruptcy, you have to figure out if what did you file? Is it a Chapter 7, which is 10 years, or is it Chapter 13? So based on the one that you file, you would address it as such. Again, we will go into great detail on part 3 of this series in terms of how to deal with bankruptcy. Okay, so repossession, it means the same thing. It means that if you have an auto, you fail to make payment, either the dealership will come and grab the car from you, or if you call them up and return the car on your own, it doesn't make any difference. It impacts you the same exact way. All right. So charge off, or just like it's another name for collection, meaning that is when a lender or somebody you're doing business with that you sign a contract with, you failed to pay them, they just write it off in taxes. Okay, and so we'll discuss that as well in the third video. All right, student loans. All right, it's another form of determinant factor that can tank your credit score if it's not in great standards. And frankly, in the last 18 months, they should be in defer. So if you have called in because of the pandemic, you didn't have to make your payments, so you're in good shape there. So if you didn't do that, then you may need to call them and see what can you work out with them. All right. And lastly, things that does not belong to you, right? There is a thing that I've seen a lot of collection accounts in folks' credit report that does not belong to them. That's the reason why in part 1, we talked about the personal information. Make sure everything matches. For that reason, you do have a lot of fraud. You do have people that find your personal information, open up account. You want to make sure that wasn't you so you can get those things off. But the only way you're going to know those things is if you watch part 1 video that kind of tell you, hey, what to do, how to start the process to make sure that people are not using your personal information to open up account, right? So if something is not yours, it's in your credit report, I will teach you exactly how to deal with it on the third video. All right, so those are all different scenario determinant factors that's tanking your credit scores. Those are all the major ones. I don't believe I leave anything out, but there might be a few that we will talk about on part 3 of the series. But for the most part, this is all of them. And I will go into great detail in part 3. Stay tuned. Again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. It will help the channel greatly. Like the video so you can, so algorithm can actually spread the video to other people who may want to see that type of content. And again, I will see you guys in part 3. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you for watching. Peace.